Paul, I remember so vividly the first time we met some 10 years ago when I was wrestling with these concepts of a theistic universe, multi-universe, how do you deal with fine-tuning? And your famous statement embedded within a lot of technicality was a pox on both of their houses, in which you meant that each one were bringing into a discussion of this universe things from outside the universe,
Yes.
either a god from theism or a multiverse bringing in pre-existing laws of quantum physics. So,
And a lot of universes that you
and a
don't
lot of
see.
universes that you needed to generate this one universes.
Have an unseen God or all these unseen universes, and probably mathematically, in some sense, equivalent.
Okay, so tell me what that means. That mathematically equivalent to having an unseen God coming in to create the universe, or unseen multiple universes come in to solve the problem of the apparent purpose or meaning or fine-tuning of this universe, because I would dare say that the vast number of your colleagues in physics would agree with you on the former in terms of the God, but be horrified to hear you talk about the latter.
Right. Well, here's a challenge to some bright graduate student out there. When you get into these discussions about, as John Wheeler put it, how come existence, then we're squabbling over my theory, your theory, which one is better. And a good theory is one that accounts for a lot of things with a minimal number of assumptions. It's called Occam's razor. I think everyone's familiar with that. Well, you can quantify Occam's razor. There's a branch of mathematics called algorithmic information theory, and it basically tells you how complex is your explanation. If your explanation is more complex than the thing you're trying to explain, you haven't achieved very much. So what science is trying to do is to bring about algorithmic compressions, that is, to explain more and more in terms of less and less. And so if you're saying God did it or there's a multiverse, you can actually ask the question in a quantitative sense, how algorithmically complex is one explanation versus the other? Now, this is going to depend on exactly what model of God you've got, and there are many different ones out there. But I suspect that you could actually, in some formal mathematical sense, say that the traditional, say, God of the Judeo-Christian, Islamic religions is probably equally as complex as the standard sort of multiverse of the type that you get.
The claim in theism, of course, is that the God is the simplest object. I'm not sure what that means.
Right. And I don't think that the type of gods that mostly get discussed are simple in the algorithmic sense. So I think both of these explanations are actually really equally complex. But somebody needs to that's a hypothesis. Okay, somebody needs to go and do the sums.
That's a great one.
It needs to be someone who's interested in theology and in mathematical foundations and algorithmic complexity theory and cosmology. Right, I haven't found this person yet.
Right. Well, I wouldn't spend a lot of time looking. All right, let's go with your conjecture and assume that they come out with your conclusion that both are complex and therefore unlikely to have just happened. I think you need an alternative, don't you?
Right. You need a better way, a better explanation. And now, when we've had these conversations, we've danced around all these different things. We've got, the universe. We've got the state of the universe. We've got the laws. We've got mathematical relationships. And these are all subtle issues. We tend to think of the laws of physics as definite mathematical relationships. But what is this thing called mathematics? Where does it come from? Is it out there somehow, or is it a human
construct,
creation? There are different opinions about it. Now, a truly unified theory of existence would have to fold the universe, mathematics, laws, and observers and observations. They would all have to be part of a unitary theory. They would all have to somehow explain each other. And this is not the mode of explanation that's normally adopted. You either say, the laws are just there, they sort of come from nowhere, And they're wonderful, precise mathematical relationships, but we won't inquire as to where the mathematics comes from or why those laws. We just take it as given. I think we have to try to understand how mathematics comes to exist, how the laws come to exist, why they are mathematical relationships, and what observers are, and what the world is as part of a unitary package. I can see the outlines of such a sort of self-consistent system. And again, I'm a great fan of John Wheeler. He said some crazy things, he said some wonderful things, but he wanted, when he said how come existence, he wanted something that didn't assume prior immutable laws. And the way he put it was cast in tablets of stone from everlasting to everlasting. They just sort of handed to you, and they made a universe and governed it. He didn't want that. He wanted the laws and the universe to somehow explain each other or come into existence together in a self-consistent explanatory loop. And you would have to put observers into that, and you would have to put mathematics into that. I don't think mathematics is something you just say, well, it's just there, and Mother Nature plunders the great warehouse of mathematics and pulls out a few choice bits and pieces to describe these various laws. We have to somehow explain how all of this hangs together.
So your argument is that all of these elements are contemporaneously necessary. It's not one yields the other and some a derivative. That each of the elements that you have to be all foundational, working together.
Yeah, it's at meetings like this, you see these slides with like the great chain of being. You see something at the bottom and there, and it's usually, mathematics, laws of physics, universe, life, mind, or something like that.
Right.
I want to fold everything together. I think we don't want to have to just say there's something sitting at the bottom of this great chain of being that just exists by magic.
So you have mathematics, you have laws of physics, you have something like mind or observers or consciousness or something on an equal level with those other two?
Yes.
And
the matter and stuff of the universe, the state, and
but the laws can that would be a derivative from the laws, though.
Well,
because some claim that you can get a universe from nothing based on the laws of physics.
That's right. So you could say that was just secondary.
So, and others would say that the mathematics can come first, and that's what generates the laws.
Right. But you see, almost everybody else would want to put something at the bottom of this explanatory chain, and then walk away.
Yes.
So it's like the Tower of Turtles, and the way I express it is that they want a levitating super turtle that holds itself up out of some sort of necessity, or they don't inquire how it manages to levitate, and then everything sits on top of that.
Right, but you have several turtles that are holding hands at the bottom. Right.
Well, you see, and again, to quote John Wheeler, I mean, this is mostly his ideas, that no Tower of Turtles, he used to say that was, and mutability. He wanted everything to be mutable, nothing to be cast in tablets of stone.